This is a tutorial of medical embryology presented by the SHL TV with reference Langman Medical Embryology by T.W. Settler. Hello, in this tutorial we're going to see the embryology of the urogenital system. So the embryology of the urogenital system is going to comprise of the first part, which is the urinary system, and then the lateral part is going to be the genital system. But this system is combined just because they have associative factors, or they have conjoint, they are really related. So now in this diagram you can visualize first this one. Here we know here that at this position, when the mesoderm is going to be formed by the third week of the treatment, by the third week of the gestation, we realize that here you're going to have a paraxial mesoderm. Paraxial mesoderm the mesoderm is going to divide into three parts: the paraxial mesoderm closer to the neural tube, then we have the intermediate mesoderm, and here we have the somatic and the visceral mesoderm. All the two are the lateral mesoderms. So this here, at the level of the paraxial mesoderm, they are going to be the formation of the somites. Now, these blood vessels here in the dorsal aorta, at the level of the intermediate mesoderm, are going to form the nephrotome. The intermediate mesoderm are going to form the tissues which are going to be involved in the production of the renal cells. So these are the nephrotomes here. So the nephrotomes are going to be accept in the different blood vessels of the dorsal aorta. So you see here that you have the internal glomerulus. Internal glomerulus enter into it as such. So here is the internal glomerulus, and here is the external glomerulus. Here are the nephric tubules, which are also formed at the other portion of the nephrotome. So now the main thing to note on these two diagrams are going to be the original renal tissue. You need to know that originally the renal tissue is produced like in case of the fish. If you look in the fish, you're going to realize that the kidneys of the fish expand throughout the length of the body. It expands throughout the thorax and the abdomen. So from there you see that our primate form, as in the law of Darwin's, our primate form was as a result of fishes. So now in the development of the fish, we realize that we also have these renal tissues also in human beings. So these renal tissues are also found in human beings. And here at this proximal portion here, you are going to have the segment, or the cranial portion, you're going to have the segmented intermediate mesoderm. The segmented intermediate mesoderm are going to produce the proximal part, or the cranial part of the nephral tissues. Here is going to be called the pronephric system. The kidney tissue, the renal tissue produced here, are going to be the pronephric system, and their associated tube is going to be called the pronephric tubule. The pronephric tubule is going to carry the initial urine from the pronephric system out into this portion here. Now the next one we have here, the unsegmented intermediate mesoderm. The unsegmented intermediate mesoderm is this other portion here. So this is the tissue of unsegmented intermediate mesoderm, and here the intermediate mesoderm, which is going to be involved with the renal tissue, are going to be called the mesonephric system. At this position you have pronephric system, here you have the mesonephric system, and lastly here the tissues here are going to be called the unsegmented mesoderm, and they are going to be called the metanephric system. Each of them have their tubule particularly. Here you are going to have the pronephric tubule, here you are going to have a mesonephric tubule, and here you are going to have a metanephric tubule, or the ureteric bud. So this is what's going to directly produce the ureter. So that's why you have the ureteric bud. All of them are going to combine at this position here. So they will bind at this position. All the tubules are going to bind at this position, and they're going to bind with the inferior portion of the allantois. This inferior portion of the allantois is called the urogenital sinus, because here at this position and posterior to urogenital sinus, we have the terminal portion of the digestive system. So all of them are going to enter into the cracker, like in case of the fish. But when you are going to see the later development, you are going to see that the urogenital sinus are going to divide into different portions. Now, so this is going to be the A diagram. The A diagram is going to be the first, what is going to happen first. Later on, you are going to see that the vestigial pronephric system are slightly going to degenerate. So we have the pronephric system, we have the mesonephric excretory unit. Slightly they are degenerating day by day. And here we have the metanephric system with the ureteric tubule with this line in red, in yellow. So now, in this diagram, we can visualize very well the gonad ridge, the gonadal ridge, and the mesonephric with the paramesonephric ridge. Here is a paramesonephric duct, and here is a mesonephric duct, and here is a paramesonephric duct. You see that the mesonephric duct is going to have the mesonephric ridge. The paramesonephric duct is going to have the paramesonephric ridge. All the paramesonephric duct are carrying normally we're carrying urine from the paranephronephric system. Now we have all the paramesonephric duct are still carrying we're mostly carrying kidney from the pronephric system. So the mesonephric duct is mainly carrying from the mesonephric system, and the paramesonephric duct have bound with the pronephric duct system to form the part of the mesonephric duct has bound to the promesonephric system to form the paramesonephric duct. And this is what is going to take mostly the urine which was found at the level of the pronephron. So here you are going to have excretory tubules of mesonephros. So these are the excretory tubules. So you have the urogenital mesenteries here. Here you are going to have the gonadal ridge. Here is a ridge for the mesonephric tubules. Here is a ridge of the mesonephric duct, and here is the ridge of the paramesonephric duct. So now, as the blood comes from the mesentery, they are going to cause the renal tissue in the mesonephric duct to then produce these renal tubules and all that. So this is the mesentery of the god, and this is the mesentery of the gonads here. So now this is the mesonephros at this position here. Here is a paramesonephric duct coming mostly from a combination of the pronephros duct and the mesonephric duct. So we have the paramesonephric duct here. We have the mesonephric duct here coming. All of them are entering now. The paramesonephric duct and the mesonephric duct, all of them are going to enter at the level of the urogenital sinus. Here is the upper portion of the urogenital sinus called the allantois, and here is the posterior portion called the cracker. So we have all this in here. And here are going to be the gonads which are lying on the gonadal ridge. Now, on the urinary system, realize that here is going to be the allantois. Here we said that is going to be, here is a urogenital sinus here. Here is the portion separating the urogenital sinus and the rectum. So it's going to be the urorectal septum. It's separated too. So you're going to have a urorectal septum here. Here you are going to have the cracker. Here you are going to have the ureteric bud. Here you are going to have the metanephric blastema. The metanephric blastema are only the tissues involved with the metanephros. Here you are going to have the mesonephric duct, and here is the mesonephric tissue. So now, how does the kidney grow grossly? So in the gross aspect, you see that the ureteric bud is going to produce the two pelvis. As it is entering into the mesonephric blastema, because it's a mesonephric blastema, as entering into the mesonephric blastema, the more it is induced, the mesonephric blastema induces the pelvis to produce more calyxes. So you are going to see that it's going to produce the major calyx, the different major calyx here, and the mesonephric blastema is going to induce it again to produce the different minor calyxes. And after the production of the minor calyxes, you are going to have the production of the collecting duct, sealed by the initial tissue coming from the ureteric bud. Now this diagram was showing how the ureteric bud grows into the mesonephric blastema. Now the other diagram here is going to show you how the blood vessels, you see again inside here was a gross diagram to show you how the ureteric bud is going to grow inside the ureteric inside the metanephric blastema. Now microscopically, what is going to occur, we are going to see in this diagram. So when the collected tubules have arrived at this location, microscopically you see that they're going to be in contact with the metanephric tissue cap here. As they are going to be in contact with metanephric, now it is no more the metanephric tubules which are going to induce the collecting duct. It is instead the collecting duct which are going to induce now the metanephric tissue cap in order to differentiate it to produce clusters. So the metanephric tissue cap are going to differentiate now to produce clusters. So after the production of clusters, the renal vesicles are going to be produced. After the renal vesicle produced, you see that at one portion they are going to be the Bowman capsule produced, and here you are going to have the terminal portion of the nephron. After that, the Bowman capsule is going to have, Bowman capsule here. You're going to have your proximal convoluted tubule here, loop of inlet, and distal convoluted tubule. And the more it grows, you see that the metanephric tissues are going to have the proximal convoluted tubules, the loop of inlet, and then the distal convoluted tubules binding down to the collecting duct here. The collecting duct arises from another tissue, from the ureteric bud. This one arises from the metanephric and blastema, and this one arises from the mesenchyme. So you have the glomerulus here, which is going to cause, and we've seen already how the blood is capable of inducing this one. So now after that, we are going to have a turn. So we are going to have proximal convoluted tubule, the ascending and descending limb. So this is proximal convoluted tubule. You have the descending limb, you have the ascending limb, and you have distal convoluted tubule connected with the collecting duct. So now, how does the collecting duct now induce the metanephric blastema in order for it to produce the different renal vesicles? So this is how they are going to be performed. The BMP7 and the FGF2 factor are going to be the one which are going to cause the WT1 gene to be activated. So you see that you have the BMP7 and the FGF factor which are going to cause the WT1 to be activated, and all this activation of WT1 is going to cause the formation now of these renal vesicles here. Here we see that there is inside the WNT9B and WNT6. So here is the PAX2 WNT4, which are going to cause, all of them are going to cause the production of PAX2 WNT, which is going to induce the formation of renal vesicles still in this way. So this is all the renal pathology with 2 ureter, but this is not of our concern now. Now the next portion is the ascent of the kidney. So normally the kidney, the metanephric tissue are going to be found at the level of the rectum. You see that the rectum is at this location, and the metanephric tissue are at this location close to the rectum. So normally their position will be at the sacral part of the body. But now what happens is that the more the lumbar vertebrae are growing up, the more, since this is connected directly to a posterior abdominal wall, the kidney is directly connected to posterior abdominal wall, is going to ascend with the vertebral column as it grows. So you are seeing, and since the mesonephros is not directly connected with the posterior abdominal wall, it's instead going to descend. So you have a contrary movement. So the metanephric tissues are going to ascend as such here, while the mesonephric and the gonads are going to descend. So because they are not directly connected, they are not so connected to the posterior abdominal wall. Here you are going to have the bladder, the mesonephros, the gonad, the metanephric tissue trying to ascend here, while the gonad and the mesonephric tissue are going to trying to descend. So here are some clinical correlations. In this case, you have a pelvic kidney which has not ascended, and in this case, you have a horseshoe kidney with this lower terminal here. Realize that this horseshoe kidney has ascended, but the inferior mesenteric artery is blocking it from its further ascending up. So now, in this position, you are going to see now the division of the urogenital sinus. So how does the urogenital sinus divide? So here at this level first, you have the primitive urogenital sinus. So this is a primitive urogenital sinus here, which was contained the mesonephric duct and the ureteric duct, both binding to each other. But afterward, this urorectal sinus is going to come and invaginate much more, trying to separate the urogenital sinus from the posterior part, which is the hindgut. So they're going to try to separate, and at the end you have the separation. And also we see here that you have the mesonephric duct is going to be separated from the ureter, and you're going to have this end here with the formation of the bladder, and at this lower portion here the mesonephric duct is going to enter, and here you're going to have the ureter. This is in a male male fetus. So you are going to have here at this position the prostate gland is going to be formed, so as you're going to see in the later views. So now here you're going to have the urinary bladder, here you're going to have the ureter, and as you see here, you see this is male because you're going to have the mesonephric tubules. The mesonephric tubules are going to produce the seminal vesicle at this upper portion here. Here's the pelvic part of the urogenital sinus. At this position here, you're going to have the production of the prostate gland. So the prostate gland is going to produce here, and this is going to be the definitive urogenital sinus. Here is going to be the anorectal canal. At this position, you see that the derivative of the aorta is going to degenerate, and it's going to form a small structure called the urachus above the bladder. Here is going to be a prostate gland. Here is going to be a penile ureter inside the penis. You are going to have the seminal vesicles. The ductus deferens is going to be the later formation of the mesonephric duct, and you have the seminal vesicle here, the seminal vesicle and the membranous ureter. So all these are what you can find at this location. And lastly, the bulbourethral gland is going to be a derivative. The bulbourethral gland is going to be the derivative, or the Cowper gland is going to be derivative of the paramesonephric duct instead. So we have the mesonephric duct. At this portion here, you have the mesonephric duct. Mesonephric duct, you see how it's going to separate. So we have the mesonephric duct and the ureteric, but all of them are going to be originally having the same point of binding. But afterward, we realize that each of them are trying to separate from each other as it grows. So as it grows much more, you see that this one is going to go downward and this one is going to go more upward. So the ureter is going to move upward and this one is going to go downward. So posterior to bladder, you have a representative structure. That representative structure posterior to bladder, which is going to show the insertion point of the ureter and the insertion point of the ductus deferens. So that position, which is going to show the insertion point of ureter and the insertion point of the ejaculated duct inside the bladder, and inside the prostate gland here and the bladder up here, you are going to have the trigone. So this representative structure is going to mark the posterior entrance of the ureter and the posterior entrance also of the ejaculatory duct or the vas deferens inside the prostate. You are going to have here your trigone of the bladder. So these are some clinical relevance. Here in this case, you realize that here you don't have a formation of the urachus. You see that the allantois is still in contact. It does not degenerate in this case. So the urine can come out here and is going to come out from the anterior abdominal wall. Here you have a urachal cyst where the tissues of the allantois are still producing fluid, which is going to have a urachal cyst. And here you can have a urachal sinus where the cysts are producing fluid and they are open up to the anterior abdominal wall. So from there, we have visualized all the main tissues involved in the urinary system, and this will mark the end of the urinary embryology. Thanks for your kind attention.